Okay, folks, how you doing today? Well, I just wanted to say congratulations to Claudine Gay, Dr. Claudine Gay at Harvard University, the first intersectional black lesbian baker, auto mechanic, academic, and plagiarizer, massive plagiarizer, and who also gets the trophy for shortest tenure in the history of Harvard, one of the oldest universities in the New World, and started by a pastor. I forget what his name was, Increase something back in the day. That was his first name, Increase, you'll know it. Anyway, but here we go. She's had 6 months and 2 days. Congratulations. I congratulate you, Dr. Claudine Gay. Doctor only in the sense of fraud, a quack, in the same sense that some people would call themselves doctor and sell snake oil back in the 1800s. This is one of them. And the pinnacle of wokeism, and I believe this will be its massive downfall in the United States, is this. We've come to this point right now. Since 2012, DEI has been pushed, artificially, of course. Media, and I already did a video on this, media pushes articles on starting in 2012, the number of articles on DEI, racism, they went up by 700 to 1,000% at like the New York Times and the Washington Post. You can watch my video if you want the references. And there were articles where up until 2012, there were articles on racism. There was maybe like 200 in the entire United States media system. And it shot up to like 15,000 articles in like 2015. And so this is kind of the pinnacle since we've had a good 10-year run, about 10 years, 11 years now, of wokeness and DEI. And I believe this is the cherry on top that really, I thought it would be
BLM, where we found out Patrice Coolers was actually a fraud who bought 4 mansions and fraudulently used the funds donated to Black Lives Matter to enrich herself and move out of black neighborhoods and move into white gated neighborhoods and get away from the people she supposedly loves and cares so much for, and allows BLM to burn down Wendy's and drugstores in black neighborhoods so they have further to go to even get their groceries or get their medicine. So these people have done a lot of horrible things, and following in the great footsteps of the wonderful and infamous Al Sharpton. So let's get to the story here. Harvard's Gay resigns following new allegations of plagiarism, shortest presidential tenure in history. After weeks of mounting evidence that Harvard President Claudine Gay essentially plagiarized her way to the top, which is true, and I think there was 40 articles and counting that have been plagiarized so far that I know of, and more are coming out. And I'm so glad, because people who have had their articles plagiarized are coming out going, I don't care if she's been fired. I'm still going to release more and more evidence that she's been stealing from various people. Plagiarized her way to the top, Gay announced on Tuesday that she is resigning Tuesday afternoon, the Harvard Crimson reports. Gay's resignation just 6 months and 2 days into the Harvard presidency, comes amid growing allegations of plagiarism. It seems like these allegations are pretty much true. And Carol Swain is one of them, who is a black conservative academic from the Carolinas who had many papers plagiarized by this woman. Lasting doubts, growing allegations of plagiarism and lasting doubts over her ability to respond to anti-Semitism on campus after her disastrous congressional testimony December 5th, Gay weathered scandal after scandal over her brief tenure, facing national backlash for her administration's response to the Hamas October 7th attack and allegations of plagiarism in her scholarly work. This is Claudine Gay's resignation letter. Rather than take responsibility for minimizing anti-Semitism, committing serial plagiarism, intimidating the free press, and damaging the institution, she calls her critics racist. Oh no. This is the poison of DEI ideology. Glad she's gone. Listen, I'll put a link to it below. I'm not going to read it because it really does sound like it's well, it sounds like she just put it on Chat GPT and just basically said, hey, Chat, could you write a resignation letter for me that sounds all nicey nice and that I didn't do anything wrong, basically, and we still have a long ways to go, and also accuse everybody who's accused me of wrongdoing of racism. Okay, so I'm thinking Carol Swain, who she stole, who she plagiarized from, allegedly, she's black. So I'm not sure how she's getting away with this, calling all her critics the people accusing her of racism, because some of them are black themselves. So that doesn't make any sense. So I'm pretty sure she wrote this big, just god awful. Just like a person who's a narcissist like this, they can't just resign quietly. They can't just put a paragraph and go, thank you very much. It has to be like a 2 or 3 page. She probably plagiarized this too. Actually, somebody on here, I think they actually tried something with, they tried an experiment where they were like, I'm going to have ChatGPT go ahead and write a letter, a resignation letter from as Harvard president, just as an experiment. And it came out sounding very much the same as hers. And also somebody did a check on Grammarly, because Grammarly has a plagiarization check. And it checks for certain red flags that indicate that this could possibly be plagiarized. Not saying everything was, but it was so funny because somebody said, oh my gosh, they put it into Grammarly, and Grammarly did a check and was like, well, it appears that this might have plagiarization in it. So her resignation letter, the big irony is that it might have been plagiarized. It might have been plagiarized. Well, no, I think it was saying that it looks like artificial intelligence wrote this. And so I don't think she can really do anything original except be the Harvard president for the shortest time in the college's history, 6 months and 2 days. Congratulations, Claudine, whatever, doesn't matter. Resignation makes Gay's tenure the shortest in the history of the university. Gay is expected to make a statement about the decision, which came 3 weeks after the Harvard Corporation, the university's highest governing body, announced unanimous support for Gay after extensive deliberations. Well, of course they're going to do that at first, because that'll be like, oh, see how virtuous we are and blah, blah, blah. And then they always wait. They always wait a little bit, like, you know what they were doing? They were like, well, let her have a good, happy holidays. And right after January 1st, we'll let her have a holiday yesterday, and then we'll totally fire her. She didn't resign. I mean, seriously, do you think she resigned? Oh, no. No, she got her ass toasted and fired. And so, of course, we can see a picture here. I don't know what this is for. It shows Epstein and like Dershowitz and some people. I'm not sure. Anyway, so they say here in InfoWars what I've just been saying, which leaves one question. How did Gay manage to write something without obvious plagiarism? And they have a thing here where you don't have to, I mean, it's kind of hard to read anyway. But it's funny. It says, hey, ChatGPT, please write me an overly ornate, rambling, race-baiting resignation letter. ChatGPT writes, dear members of the Harvard community, it is with a heavy heart, but a deep love for Harvard that I write to share. Anyway, we're not going to read that. But that was funny that they kind of did an example of like, hey, ChatGPT, write me a race-baiting resignation letter. And they showed an example of that. I thought that was awesome. Scandal-plagued Harvard president Claudine Gay has been hit with an additional 6 allegations of plagiarism Monday night in a complaint filed with the university, the Washington Free Beacon's Aaron Siberian report. And I've even heard more than 40 accounts of plagiarism have been lobbied against her. This brings the number of allegations, here it is, against Gay to just under 50, which 7 of Gay's 17 published works already impacted by the scandal, and now an 8th. Congratulations. So here's an example, folks. In a 2001 article, Gay lifts nearly half a page of material verbatim from another scholar, David Cannon, a political science professor at the University of Wisconsin. The article, called The Effect of Minority Districts and Minority Representation on Political Participation in California, includes some of the most extreme and clear-cut cases of plagiarism yet. At one point, Gay borrows 4 sentences from Cannon's 1999 book, Race, Redistricting, and Representation, the Unintended Consequences of Black Majority Districts, without quotation marks and with only minor semantic tweaks. She does not cite canon anywhere in or near the passage, though he does appear in the bibliography. Now, this is a big deal. Now, in the world of academia, I'm actually losing absolute hope or anything in academia. I believe it's really kind of a turd pile right now. It needs to be cleaned up vastly, and it needs a smackdown of humility, big time. And I think this may be the start. Who knows? Who knows? I try to be a little white pill a little bit and have some hope, but who knows? So, but the thing is when you don't cite the person, it's their original work, and you rip off their stuff and actually word for word plagiarize their words, and you don't put quotations and marks around it, and you don't indicate in a bibliography or references that this is, or a footnote, that this is taken from David Cannon, you are plagiarizing. So David Cannon says, let's just do this one example. The VRA is often cited as one of the most significant pieces of civil rights legislation passed in our nation's history. He himself, David Cannon, makes reference to Days 1992, page 52, Parker 19. Okay. The central parts of the VRA are Section 2 and Section 5. This prohibits any state from political subdivision, from imposing a voting practice that will deny or abridge the right of any citizen of the United States to vote on account of race or color. The latter was imposed only on covered jurisdictions with a history of past discrimination, which must submit changes in any electoral process or mechanism. Super boring, super dull, probably kind of important, I don't know. Anyway, so let's look at hers. She says, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So all she did was took that acronym and spelled it out, what it meant. That's the only thing that she did different. Of 1965, so she added that in, is often cited as one of the most significant pieces of civil rights legislation passed, there it is, same things, most significant pieces of civil rights legislation passed in our nation's history. So she did copy that completely. The only thing she replaced was the VRA. She replaced the acronym with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The central parts of the measure are Section 2 and Section 5, blah, 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 blah. Any state, this is what David Cannon just said, any state or political subdivision from voting practices that deny or abridge the right of any citizen of the United States to vote on account of race or color. So did have quotation marks. Section 5 imposed only on covered jurisdictions with a history of past discriminations. And then she copies things verbatim from his endnotes. Basically, let's see, states, he says, states in which less than 50% of the voting age population either registered or voted in the 1964 presidential election, and that had various discriminatory prerequisites for voting as of November 1964. Claudine Gates says the exact same thing, almost that entire thing she copied. So anyway, you get the gist of it. But I had to go through some detail because details, like they say, the devil's in the details. So yes, I will go into them because you want to see hard proof. Here's the hard proof. Now, she shouldn't have been fired for this. She should have been fired for not calling out speech, people saying from the river to the sea at Harvard, basically demanding the genocide of Jews. Now, here's the thing. I believe in free speech. If you want to say that garbage, go ahead, you can. But if you're the president of Harvard and it is your student saying this, you need to come out and say, I don't agree with you. I condemn what you're saying. And there you go. And that's the thing. They should have a right to say that stuff, even if it bothers us. But that exposes them to the public. So you come out and you go, yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I condemn it. I condemn it as evil. I condemn it as hateful, but it's free speech. And she should have done that. She should have condemned it. Instead, she went before Congress, and Congress is like, well, what do you think of this? And she's like, well, do you think this is hate speech? Do you think this is a problem, this anti-Semitic speech? And she's like, well, it depends on the context. And I'm like, so I guess, like I saw a meme and it just showed the gate at Auschwitz. The gate at Auschwitz says Arbeit macht frei. And I think that means work makes you free. But somebody made a meme and it said, depends on the context in the gate. And so I thought that encapsulated the problem right there, right away. So Bill Ackman says, new whistleblower complaint alleging 50 instances of plagiarism by Harvard President Gay. The whistleblower raises serious issues about the initial investigation into Gay's work and how it was conducted. The whistleblower levels credible accusations against the Harvard governing body. Claudine Gay is the Christmas gift that keeps on giving. This scandal is doing more to expose DEI than years of criticism by the right. Hope she never quits, which is absolutely true. It's the sad truth. This is what it takes. And I know that too, many of the donors to Harvard are Jewish themselves, or are just simply people who just disagree with this. They're like, I don't agree. You didn't come out and condemn this. In fact, you seem to be okay with it. And that's the problem. As a president, you should not be okay with it. In your private life, you can think what you want, but you need to come out and condemn it. She didn't do that, of course, because she's a total coward and a woke fraud. Okay, and it seems like what wokeness is built on in the first place is fraud, because it's all about tearing people down and creating division. That's all it does. It never seeks wokeness, and DEI, the bullwhip of DEI, has never sought to look for creating relationships of trust. Now, they will say that. And perhaps there are a few people out there at the beginnings of DEI who thought, well, heck, what's wrong with the words diversity, equity, inclusion? Well, not much is really wrong with them on principle, but this is something that is immediately going to be abused. And it was. Within 2 days of DEI being a thing at workplaces, it became a problem. It became something, everybody was nervous, everybody had to be on pins and needles, and we're not machines. And it was basically, hijacked. Everything altruistic like this nowadays is hijacked by Marxist principles, which Marxist principles rely on one thing, essentially, seek and divide based on anything. Anything you can think of, find division in it. And it's going to get to a point, I'm serious, where people are going to be like, well, which it probably has been in the past, where DEI would become so bad, I'm not kidding, and wokeism, that they'll be like, well, you're left-handed, I don't know if you're, that's not really diverse. That's not equity, okay? I mean, we are at that point, though. Like, I've seen that coffee is racist, apparently now, and cats are racist, and picking your butt is racist. So anyway, it doesn't really mean anything after a while when you use it to accuse everyone of probably the things that you're doing, which is what these DEI woke advocates, this is what they do. They utilize it as this bullwhip to go around and basically suppress you, keep you from opening your mouth, and censoring you too. It's blackmail, okay, at the behest of being moral, which it isn't. I'm like, well, you're not God, but they think they're God. These people assume that they're these godlike powers, and they use this bullwhip to go around and teach people to goose step in line. So Cannon pledged fealty, insisting that, this guy who got he got plagiarized. Cannon was pledging fealty, insisted that Gay had done nothing wrong. But remember, David Cannon himself is he is a professor at University of Wisconsin at a woke. It's all super woke. So if he even says anything about, well, she did actually plagiarize, he's going to probably lose his job too, because these leftist universities, this is all a mafioso type setup. They gang up, they dogpile these people, and eventually they get them fired or demoted. And so Cannon, pledging fealty, insisted that Claudine Gay had done nothing wrong in this plagiarizing. I am not at all concerned about the passages, he told the Beacon. This isn't even close to an example of academic plagiarism. Well, what is then? I know what he's doing. He's covering his ass. So as a journalist, Paul Thacker of the Disinformation Chronicle reports, students are held to a much higher standard than Claudine Gay and other academics caught plagiarizing. That is absolutely 100% true. Students are held to a much higher standard than the president of the university. He says here, Harvard tried to sell Claudine Gay as a scholar. The student newspaper reported Harvard's board threatened the New York Post with a lawsuit, reviewed Gay's plagiarism, found to be demonstrably false, and Gay submitted corrections for plagiarism that she didn't commit. This is how they do the scholarship, quote unquote, in the Ivy League, people. But it gets better. Brand new allegations that Gay had copied and pasted sentences in 7 of her 11 publications then came to light. In just one example, Thackeray found a Yale professor who literally signed their name. Okay, we're not going to go through that. But I will leave the reference below so you can see these instances of plagiarization. You get it. Okay, so I'm going to let it die there. Thank the Lord, I beat this horse to death for sure. But as you can see, 2 big problems here. One, if you're the president of Harvard and you don't stand up for your students and you scream that you're diverse while being just fine with anti-Semitic comments or anti-white comments or anti-black, whatever you want, just take your pick, man. But if you're fine with that and your job as president and you are the beacon for diversity and inclusion, it certainly seems like you're excluding Jews at Harvard. So of course you're going to get your ass canned. And she probably has had LASIK, so I don't know why she even has those glasses. Anyway, I mean, she has the money for it. So anyway, we'll probably see her pop up as some diplomat or statesperson for the World Economic Forum or something like that, because they love this garbage. And meritocracy has died. I will say this now, at these universities, we know now, and we have seen in person, that meritocracy has died, and cheating and fraud are the way to go, as long as you're on the left. So anyway, thanks for watching, folks, and I will talk to you later.